Hi everyone, I thought I would try and do a video showing out everyone how I drew the pictures for my exhibition for the book. It's kind of difficult, I'm not very good at videoing anything really, but if you can see, this is I've got my fairy lights on, this is my iMac that I got earlier on this year when I realised I was going to have to do a lot of this stuff at home. There's the keypad, and there's a ship that I drew from, Damaged. And here's a very important piece of equipment for me. This is my Wacom tablet, and this works exactly the same as if you were drawing. You've got your workspace there between those lines, so that's your work area. It's moving as I touch it. So I don't know if you can see, but the mouse is moving. As I move the pen, the mouse is moving. And this is my little pot to put it in. But this is my work area. So what you've got to imagine is this is your screen size, this. So when I do that, you can probably see the mouse move on the size of the screen. So that is my work area. So, all my drawing was done using this pen. You can probably see how well worn. This tablet was new at the beginning of the year, but you can probably see how worn it is. So you can kind of see the space where I'm constantly working. Yeah, so it's very well used. But yeah, imagine that you're just drawing with a pencil, a pen, and you get the feel of it. It is quite strange. Everyone says to me, how can you draw not on the screen? Because actually at work we have somewhere where you draw directly on the screen. And all I can say is that it's practice. That's exactly what it is. So here's the original ship that I drew from. And what I did was I actually did a copy of that, and I did a very, very faint opaque version of that ship because I do need to be able to draw to get the sizing of it all right. So yeah, you could say it's an element of tracing, but it's only tracing so far in that I'm getting the dimensions right of what I'm drawing. Actually, what I draw on top of that is my drawing, and that comes with technique. So it's going a bit blurry because I think it's trying to focus on something. So if I get rid of that, what I will bring in is the original drawing. So you can see here that there are all the lines and everything. And actually if I move each thing, everything's individual. So I can move all of it. In fact, I'll just move all of that out of the way. There you go, I've taken off the back of the ship. So everything is a bit individual. And if I zoom right in, you can see the lines have all been drawn individually, even down to the little windows and things. And actually that's using, it's brush tool, and you just draw like that. And now you can see that's the lines I'm drawing. So basically that's taking you right in. So when I draw those lines, the ropes, I'm just drawing them across like that. So that probably gives you an idea. So I'm going to zoom back out. Trying to do this one-handed, as easy as said than done. There we go. View, window. It's quite weird doing video because I just do this without even thinking. So, as you can see, I can take sections of that and move it, and it all separates. There you go. So I don't know if that gives you any idea. Anyway, we're going to close that for the minute. Then the background is completely separate. And this is sort of where I do these brush strokes. So every individual sail, I don't know if you can see that, I'm moving everything. Everything's individual. And that, how I do that is also with a gradient tool. So what you have to kind of do is you have to draw. So if I draw a box there, So this is where you are doing sort of a line drawing. And what I do here is I'm looking at the gradient, but it's really important to get the shading right and everything. And I don't know if you can see there, I'm taking the gradient levels up and down. And every individual one had to be right, what I was doing. Aside from the gradient, I've got the sky, and I don't know if you can see that. They're all individual lines. So, if I hide that for a minute and show you an example. Here's my pen tool. Now I'm drawing, you can see it's sort of giving the effect of the sky. And sometimes it's a bit too wiggly, so I'll do a straight line. But also, I'll layer those up on top of each other to give more of an effect. And the other thing I do up here, this is very important what I use. You've got different lines which can make it sort of thinner at one end. But the other thing I do is I change the point size quite considerably. So you can make them thicker, thinner. So when you move everything. The other thing I do with this is you can change the colour on this. So say if I wanted to change that to like a blue. So I click on that, pick a blue that I'd want. And that can't really see very well, but you can see that's now blue. But like I say I'm not very happy with that. There's something on Illustrator where you use the vector and you can change all of these lines there, so you can see I'm changing that individually. And if I want that to fit in to exactly what I think would fit better for like the sky, then I move everything. So it's all about layering, really. And I'll put those on that. So what you'll find is, if I close that for a minute, go back to there, you can see the sky is behind, and that is all individual, and I'll just layer them up. And the same with the sky here, I will do a gradient, seas gradient, so you can see that. If I click on a box there, I've had to actually create the gradient for that. And again, that's all here. So what you're doing is you're moving that up and down to make it darker or not. Let's see if that would work. So you can change the direction of the gradient. And you can see that. And actually by flipping it like that, you can see it's got a bit of a angle on it. So that's kind of how I do the gradients. The other one I was going to show you was just the sea. I don't know if you can see the sea there. So obviously I've got the gradient below, but then I've got the effect here of the sea. So again, if I go back to where I was doing the sky, here's the two lines that I used for the sea. So I thought this was quite a good line for sort of the waves and effect, and you can see there I changed the line. And I've got this brush tool which I use there. There's something called brush tools actually. If you go into the brushes, you've got something called artistic, and I go into something called paintbrush, and it brings you up all these different paintbrushes. So you can see here, it's quite a big choice, but I love using this one at the bottom. That's my favourite. But you can see if I move that, if I decided to do, so I'm using the pen tool again, if I decided to do another wavy line, I love that, I just think it looks like wave. But you can change this to any one of these, and as you can see that looks sort of like a paint stroke. That's quite thick. That's quite nice, I guess. Yeah. So there's lots of different options there. But I sort of have my favourites, and with a lot of my drawing, it's like with anyone, everyone has a style, and I tend to go for the same effects. As you can see there, if I draw from that way, you can see it's thicker at that end. If I draw the other way, backwards, it's thicker at that end. And what you can do is layer these up to give quite a nice effect. And they're quite opaque, so they'll go on top of each other. And again, if I change the width of that, you can see again it's gone quite thick. So what I would do here again, I would change the vector and maybe bring that down a bit. Okay, so that's giving you the effect. And then I use this other one, you can see it. I use the other brush tool for sort of the wave tops, the white bits of the wave. So here, oh, wrong one. I'm trying to remember where it is now. So yeah, there we go. You can see it's sort of kind of quite a nice white effect. It looks quite smoky. So again, I can change the width of this. It makes it quite thick. So that's kind of how I do the sky and the sea and everything, and that gave me that effect down there. So you can kind of see that, and everything was individual. So if I go back to drawing from here, this is the ship again. So I always use this paintbrush tool. There is a pen tool, but that's for doing sort of boxes and things like that. This is your drawing tool, and it's a very lovely tool. And again, I've got pretty much a go-to line that I use. So if I show you this, there's my line. And again, that's pretty much, if you go into artistic, and I always use something called chalk charcoal pencil, and it's usually right at the bottom. So I love using that line. It's a great line. Obviously I have a go-to point, again 1.5, but this is when I was going to print it. I actually had to make it quite thick for the pictures, because the pictures are a lot bigger than the ones in the book. So actually what you'll find is the pictures in the book were done with 1.5, and the pictures I had to print for the exhibition I had to increase to 3. And there you can see that slightly thicker, but they came out really, really thin on the exhibition pictures because obviously they were bigger. So this is my go-to line. So where I kind of tend to start, I never really have a I don't know, starting point. I guess I start at the beginning, and as you can see the image underneath, but the most important thing is getting all the details correct. So what you'll find is I'll draw in a line, and you can see, like, basically I'm drawing here. So I'll draw on this line, but it's really important to get the details in, and there's a lot of technical details obviously on a ship. I kind of know them quite well now because obviously I've been on them. I'd like to think I know some of the names of them. I'm pretty rubbish at remembering things actually. So yeah, but this is the bowsprit. I do know this. It's probably my favourite place to be on a ship. It's nice to know. But what you'll find is everything I do is pretty much sketching, and it's kind of guesswork because you can't always guarantee that what is going to come out is going to be perfect. And that's the great thing about art. There is a bit of an artistic license. Obviously I'm not going to get this exactly the same as the photo, but what's really important is to try and get all the details in. So getting these lines in, getting the ropes, and a lot of the time there's a lot of frustration because I have to keep light with that. I'm not happy with that because it's wonky, and it's actually straight, that, because it's metal. So I'll just delete that and I redraw it. And what you'll find is there's no rulers involved with this. This is just freehand, complete freehand. It would be great if I just used rulers, but again I feel like that's cheating a bit. So it's just freehand. You can see here I'm just doing sort of, it's quite messy actually. If you go into it, it is quite messy. So again, it's really important to try and get straight lines. I have got quite a steady hand, but as I don't know if you can see there, I've gone a bit off. That is a bit off for me. It's too off for me. So again, I just delete that and I restart. So Sometimes it's okay to have a bit of artistic license though, and if it's not completely straight, that's okay. So again, I'm drawing in all these sections. The bits where the sails connect, again, really important to get those in. But again, say if you look at the sails here, you've got the bits where the rope's attached. I'm really bad with terminology. I'm sorry to everyone who's watching who had me on their ship over the summer. Yeah, I should know these things. Again, I've not quite hit that. Now, normally, I don't know whether I'd leave that. I'd change that because I'm quite picky. So again, I redo it again. And you have to have a kind of steady hand. You see it went a bit wonky there, but I'm all right with that because it's pretty much close to what you'd expect. But you see the details in the ships with the creases of things. Now, a lot of this is down to me to know how they work. So again, I'm putting in the sail, but again, all the little sections where the sail is sewn and all the little details are really, really important to get in. So hopefully I've got those details as close as possible to what they should be. So again, I'm doing this very quick actually. I'm a little bit more methodical when I did it for the book because I'm such a perfectionist that, yeah, I didn't like getting anything wrong. And I don't miss anything out as well. I'd hate to think someone could come to me and say, well, actually, I think you'll find on this ship you're missing that. That was my biggest fear about doing the book and all the illustrations because I wanted to get everything perfect. Again, I'm doing this very, very fast. But if I click off that, oh, just moved. I'll click off that, and if I remove that, you should be able to see. Oh, I've done it on the thing, wrong layer. Okay, object. Oh, I'm talking to myself now. Yeah, just ignore me. Oops. I'm doing this so quick that I'm forgetting what I'm doing. Right. So, what you should see is, I've actually done those in pink. I hadn't even realised. So what I'm going to do is I'm selecting all of that and I'm going to change that to black because I don't want pink. So you can see there, there's all the details. So I'll bring the boat back. What I've actually done is I've put that on the wrong layer. So I'm going to make sure it's on the right layer and not pink. So copy, cut, and this is all my layers over here, so this is where I should be working on layer 6, paste. Okay, and what you'll find is whatever layer you're working on gives you an idea because you've got your outliners in sort of blue. So yeah, it kind of gives you an idea of how I've done everything. Again, I need to change that back to black. But I hope that kind of gives a little idea of how I work. So what you end up with is a mess because I've pulled it all apart. Yeah, you wouldn't end up with the ship all over the place, but you end up with everything put together and eventually a ship that really works. And hopefully you can see all the details. So when you zoom in, you'll see all of the creases and everything in the sail, like I say, have all been done individually. And that's kind of artistic license as well. There's probably some where there should be some, but I've kind of done it how I think it should look. Yeah, so the other thing I was going to show everyone was I was just going to open the file. I had a few people ask me at the exhibition how I did the colouring and the smoke. So I'm going to open that and show you, hopefully. So here you have the colouring. And what I'll do is try and remove, take away there, you can see there's just the drawing. So the colour was completely separate. So that's the background with the colour and everything. And like I say, it's gradient again. So actually all of this down here is individual. So if I take those apart, that's not going to work because I'm on the wrong layer. Yeah. So if I move that, you can see. And again, it's all down to each individual part. The gradient differs. So you can see that's like 45% angle. That angle's not 0. And the same with the sails. All the sails are exactly the same. Yeah, 90-degree angle. So lots of different angles. So if I put that back, you can actually take things back and put it back into position. So that's your gradient. But I know everyone was, oh, I haven't shown you the original picture. There's the original picture. A really old picture. Obviously, a lot of different detail that I don't put in, but again, I've got a particular style that I do, and I try to make things a bit more minimalist without losing the effect of it coming in and oldie worldy. So like I say, if you look there, I made it quite minimalist and a bit more less detailed. But if you look at the detail on the tugboat and on the ship itself, there is quite a lot of shading. So again, these are sort of individual things that I've added. But the smoke, I know everyone's interested in the smoke. So this gives you an idea. What I'll do is I'll move all of this. So, and you can see all of that now. That's all individual lines that I actually drew. So what I'm going to do is delete all of those. And draw smoke in again, so it gives you some sort of idea. And again, it was all layering. So I'm just going to move that at the top there. And again, I'm doing everything on here. So this is smoke, and I don't know if you can see this. Yep, and you just layer it over